All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Talkin' Ball Live with Pat Leonard. This is a special one here from NRG Stadium in Houston. Just got out of the Giants locker room talking to Brian Daboll and the players here in Houston. Daniel Jones, first game back off the ACL surgery and rehab. Good to see him healthy, good to see him running, good to see him out there. Not good to see how it started. Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll, the first ones to admit, shaky start. Far from perfect, poor decision on the interception in the end zone, left to throw a little inside to Jalen Hyatt on the deep ball. Brian Daboll said he did not hate that decision, said it was the right decision by Daniel Jones, but ultimately just the throw was off target. Daboll said that they were emphasizing pushing the ball down the field. They wanted to test out how the offensive line would hold up and also give Daniel Jones a chance to feel a real live rush in the game to not only test the knee, but also test how this offense is going to fare. Have a lot of insight for you guys on Malik Neighbors, Daniel Jones, the offensive line, the defense, Darius Slayton, injury updates. So we will get started here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. This is going to be a quick turnaround. It's going to be a lot of fun that we kind of talk here about the Giants and about the Texans and about how this game went. And then I'm racing over to Houston's airport and flying home on a red eye. So it's going to be a quick turnaround there for me and right back to the New York area because we have a ramp up week here for the Giants. This was a dress rehearsal for the regular season. And now we're going into the final week of the preseason where they have a joint practice scheduled for, I believe, Tuesday against the Jets, followed by a preseason finale against the Jets as well. Really excited about it. And, we're ramping up here. I'll take all your questions as always. First, want to tell you quickly about our sponsors. We are sponsored here by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code that you see on your screen, you will get a 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar that is convenient for on-the-go professionals and parents. It takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And finally, by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football, from the preseason NFL to college kicking off. BetOnline has every stat, matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE and get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. I'm going to get into the question queue now, and we're going to hit this and get rolling. Remember, you can purchase a super chat or a super sticker to have your comment or question answered first and addressed immediately. If not, please just hit the like button while we are live. That helps live engagement, tells people we are doing this. And listen, everyone out there creating Giants content is doing a great job, but I feel like what we are doing uniquely here is coming out of the Giants locker room, talking to players like Jacob Johnson, the new signing, who plays in the game before he practiced. Daniel Jones after his first game since last November. Malik Neighbors after having a drop and bouncing back. Darius Slayton, who makes the big play to help the Giants feel a little bit better about themselves than they could have in a game that started so poorly. Andrew Thomas about the offensive line's pass protection, Brian Daboll about injuries and about the game plan. So coming to you guys live, straight from the source, having these private conversations where some of it I've posted on social media and I share things on X, on Threads, on Instagram, but I do like saving a lot for our chats here because I think the diehard fans know that when you come here, you're getting unique insight and information about the Giants and about the NFL. So let's start. Joey B. Comedy says, smash the like and subscribe button, people. Really appreciate that, Joey, one of our diehards here. He says, man, after watching that, I'm absolutely not optimistic about our season again. Yeah, Joe, I feel like the concern here is that the problems of last year could be the problems of this year, right? Which is, let's just face it, big picture, when you sit down and you're looking at the clock in the beginning of a second quarter and the Giants have 0 points, it's Groundhog Day, right? It's frustration, and it happens different ways for different bad offenses or offenses shooting themselves in the foot, right? Very frustrating when you see that. Frustrating coming off of last year where the Giants had so much of those problems happening for them. So here as we stand, as we sit here evaluating this Giants offense, Daniel Jones said it pretty well. He said, basically far from perfect. He feels good physically. He's glad they got it rolling by the end of the half. But of course, they only got it rolling and made some plays down the field when the backups came in for the Houston Texans there on defense. Also, one thing I want to add right off the bat, I thought this was a unique insight from Andrew Thomas, the left tackle. The Giants, I think their only sack they let up was almost a sack when Daniel Jones throws the pick six, but he held the ball a little too long there, it appeared. And then there was a sack fumble for DeVito at the end of the game in the fourth quarter with the backups. But I think there was a takeaway. I've seen a lot of people taking away. They felt like the offensive line was really good in this game and protected Daniel well. And I asked Andrew, I said, did you think you guys protected, well, especially in pass pro? And he said, we did okay. He said, I got to have to go back and watch. And then he looked at me and he said, listen, they didn't play either of their starting edges, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. So, the fact is Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., who start for Houston, did not even play in this game. So, again, I'm not poking holes in the fact that they looked better than the disasters of what we've seen in seasons past. But Daniel Jones did take some hits. And also, I'm just giving you insight on how the Giants' star left tackle is processing it in the moment. D. Kit, another one of our diehards, says, appreciate you, Pat. Level of concern with Daniel Jones' performance within the building. Is it viewed just as part of the learning process or something like that? I don't think at this point it's a learning process or there's much patience for poor play. I think right now it's all about a judgment on the quarterback's ability to be the franchise QB or not, because there definitely was from Brian Daboll postgame an element of him saying, listen, this is his first game back since tearing the ACL. And it sounded like there was a little bit of a sliver of understanding that this guy hasn't played in a game since November. So there is a part of that, D-Kit. But learning process on, as far as the offense goes or as far as these decisions and the decision-making goes on Jones's part, I don't think there's much patience for that. I know there's not much patience for that. The Giants' problem, obviously, right now is there's no real solution behind him. Drew Lock's injured right now. He was in uniform as the emergency third quarterback, but so far has not put play on the field that makes you feel comfortable about, if Jones struggles or they're sick of the mistakes, they'll just go to Drew. Not necessarily providing comfort in that scenario at the moment at the backup quarterback position. No, D-Kid, I think the level of concern is this. This was the game where the Giants wanted to come out of it feeling like, hey, look at what we just put on the field with our starters. We game planned for it. We were running cards at practice, looking at the Texans defense. We come in, we're facing their starters minus their two edges. And for 3 drives, the starting offense looks bad and the quarterback looks bad. And here's another thing. Devin Singletary, 10 carries, 20 yards. He did punch in that 1-yard touchdown off of Darius Slayton's big catch from Daniel Jones on the short field created by a defensive stop in the red zone after Derek Stingley Jr.'s interception of Jones, his second pick intended for Jalen Hyatt. but they didn't move the line of scrimmage well in the run game. So I think the best thing you can take, D-Kit, is that at Brian Daboll, as you saw, he left the starters in. He ran a hurry-up, no-huddle offense at the end of the half, which I thought was interesting. You got some good feeling out of those completions. Daniel Jones with 3 completions to Neighbors, 2 to Slayton, and 1 to Wan'Dale Robinson on that final drive. But obviously, the numbers prior to that drive were absolutely abysmal, especially in the passing game. The exact numbers, FYI, he was 2 of 6 passing for 18 yards and 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 in the first 3 drives. So, yes, rough start early, and he is rusty, but obviously a lot of the same when you talk about the types of mistakes that you're seeing, right? When you say, like, is a player what he is, or is he going to improve? Those types of mistakes are discouraging from that vantage point. I will say this, D-Kit, I don't think this was just a case of everything was great around Daniel Jones and he let the Giants down. Like, I think, Daniel obviously is the story, not playing well enough in this game. There's no question about it. But there were things going wrong in different parts of the offense and of the field. Like I said, the running game wasn't perfect, far from perfect. Their top running back to average 2 yards a carry. And that was with a 10-yard gain in there on the ground. Neighbors had a drop. Neighbors had an illegal formation penalty, right? There were times Daniel Jones got put on his butt and took some big hits, even though it was better than the disasters we've seen in the past. So, full context matters for sure. D-Kit also says, let me put it another way. They've painted themselves into a corner at the position. They have no other alternative, do they? What would you do? Well, D-Kit, at this point, after an offseason of trying to replace him or draft his successor and then not doing that, they're stuck here at the moment. I think, with the money that they're paying him, the money that he is owed, the money on this contract for this season, they're at a position where it's Daniel Jones or bust. They have painted themselves into a corner. I do think it's important to remember that while organizationally they might look at this and say, we feel like we're building it better around him, but he's still not playing well. I think it's important to remember that this regime and this organization paid Daniel Jones on a long-term extension, kind of putting their faith behind him. So it's not like they inherited this contract. They made that decision as well. That's something I think is important to remember. Lane, thank you so much. $5 says, has any New York athlete ever gotten as many excuses as Jones by both media and fans? This is insane how many people are still giving him the benefit of the doubt. Lane, I think I would say this, now he earned it, but at the end of there's a similarity in some ways to, like, at the end of Eli Manning's career, when he was clearly not playing well, wasn't the same player, and was hindering the offense and team, the Giants and a huge portion of the fan base was resisting the suggestion that what you were seeing on the field was what was there on the field, right? And excuses were being made internally, not just, in the fan base for that player. Of course, that's different because that player had earned those excuses to an extent with obviously, 2 all-time runs and 2 Super Bowls. But I'm just pointing out the sentiment of, let's say, the Giants have a history at the quarterback position of trying to stay in love with something that's not working. And they're not the only ones that did that. Like, right after the Giants did it with Eli, the Pittsburgh Steelers did it with Ben Roethlisberger. And look at what their quarterback position is right now. They're still paying for that. So, this happens in other organizations. But to your point, yes, when teams, they want to justify their own evaluations, they want to justify their own investments. They also, like, Daniel Jones is a likable guy that people in the Giants really like as a leader, as a person, as a franchise quarterback. And so they don't want to bail and abandon on a guy like that. So those things all go into the mix. But I do think you make a good point, which is, like, stop saying here's the silver linings, this and that. Like, it has to be better. And that's there's no question about it. Let's see. J-Fed says, hit on my Texans tickets. Not bad at all. I will say, I thought if I was going to put in a ticket for this game, I was going to put in Tank Dell for a long touchdown. So that one didn't happen. So I would have lost money there. Manzilla says, Jones is hot garbage. Listen, I think Daniel would be the first one to tell you that, and he did after the game, that, you can't make those throws and those mistakes, especially the one backed up against the end zone. But, let's face it, like, extremely discouraging that the Texans now, they probably don't go for that in the regular season, right? But it's like they went for that 4th and goal with CJ Stroud in the first team offense because they didn't really fear or weren't worried about what was going to happen if they didn't get it and the Giants offense was backed up. And so that proved obviously prescient on their parts. Let's see. Lane says, has one New York quarterback ever torpedoed his coach and GM's chances as much as Jones has? Enough and is enough. Year 7. I think, Lane, I would say this to you, and I know we've just talked about this a little bit, but I would say again, Daniel Jones making those mistakes, you can't make those mistakes. We agree with that. He didn't play well today. The offense, a familiar scene of no points going into the second quarter of a game, really frustrating. But this regime just had several off seasons here to move on, to go get somebody else, to not pay the guy long-term, to draft somebody. Didn't happen. Now, we did talk in our last chat, hey, when do the Giants dodge a bullet like they did here apparently by not drafting J.J. McCarthy, who now tears his meniscus and is out for the season? They could have done that. Imagine how bad that would have been. Daniel Jones right now doesn't feel loved by the Giants organization. Imagine how he would have felt if they had drafted J.J. McCarthy and then he tore his knee and then they had to go back to Jones, right? So could have been worse, but that doesn't make you feel better, I'm sure. Let's see. Manzilla says neighbors did not want to come here for a reason. Listen, I think you saw in a game like today where even if the Giants aren't a good offense or a good team, this guy can still make plays. Like Darius Slayton said that on that one catch on the sideline, he said Malik floated up for that catch. I thought that was a great way of putting it. And Neighbors, by the way, great description. I asked him about that catch. I said, I was just talking one-on-one with him. Which, by the way, Malik Neighbors, a fan of the Arrival videos. So if you guys don't watch them already, I do Arrival videos where I video the players coming in with their outfits, and then I video myself as well. Obviously, no one wants to see me. You all want to see the players. But Neighbors love that. He and Simmons came in together. They were both dripping, and I videoed them and posted it, and he was a fan. He said, nice video. So I appreciate that. But Neighbors said in that moment, he goes, I actually thought I jumped too early for the ball. He said, and then I kind of reached my hands up as high as I could. And I said, well, maybe let's see if I can actually still reach it. And he said, and then once it hit my hands and I caught it, I'm thinking, well, where am I on the field again? And he said, I'm thinking all of this in like a second and a half, And I said, oh, so that's just all instinct, read, and react. And he was like, yeah. So incredible athlete, incredible athlete. Antonio says, any update on McFadden's injury? Did you see him in the locker room? I did not see Micah in the locker room. They listed it as a hip. It looked like he was reaching for his groin area, though. So I'm interested to see exactly what the final diagnosis is here. Of course, they're really thin at inside linebacker right now. It's Bobby Okereke, but then after that, you got Micah McFadden is down. Deontay Johnson obviously has the left ankle. Matt Adams also left today's game with a groin injury at inside linebacker. So the Giants, a lot of injuries, didn't really get into it too much with Brian Daboll on that after the game. But I definitely think it's time to talk a little bit more about how banged up the Giants are right now at so many spots. Lane says, at what point do we seriously start considering the idea of benching Daniel Jones to avoid the injury cap hit? Week 2, what a pathetic 7 years has been, Pat. Depressing. You know what, Lane? I don't think this coach and GM are in a position where they can just sit the guy right out of the gate and eat a 2-1 or 3-win season, to turn over and get a high draft pick. Like, I don't think that's where they are right now. I think that it's too deep into the process to do that early. But obviously it'll depend on the results. The biggest concern coming out of this game is, again, it's the fact that they play the Minnesota Vikings on September 8th. And the way that we saw Daniel Jones play at the beginning of this told you, uh-oh, here we go again about maybe how things could go offensively right out of the gate, right? So that's the biggest concern. Of course, you hope that the Giants defense is going to fare well, against Sam Darnold, and you have an advantage there with that pass rush. But you even saw today, bend but don't break. Some more bend but don't break from the defense there. Would have been 3 points probably in a real game from the Texans there, but obviously Dexter Lawrence bats the pass down. Good to see. Let's see. We got someone else checking in with a super chat. It's our man D again. Huge support. He says, Pat, I'm nauseous thinking about another season of ineptitude. How about you come up with something not crappy that we can hang our hat on? One thing. All right. Thank you, D-Kit. So let's go into the positives. Well, I was just talking about Malik Neighbors and how freaky of an athlete he is for sure. Let's see. Listen, Darius Slayton, is a guy who there have been times where we thought maybe he wouldn't be on the team. Maybe he was going to get traded. He wasn't in camp in the spring. Makes a big play. Without that play, the Giants probably don't get out of this game with any positives at all. Maybe they still launch that last drive in the 2-minute, but they were in a position there on that drive where they were just desperate for something. And Daniel Jones, with the help of Darius Slayton, makes it happen. Listen, they have a legitimate 3 receivers who are deep threats, who can separate one-on-one coverage, man-to-man, beat their guy one-on-one, take it deep, long touchdowns, right? Hyatt, Neighbors, Slayton. That's the encouraging thing is Daniel Jones hits a deep shot to Darius Slayton for 44 yards. And even though it's against a backup corner, Brian Daboll said this after the game. He said their emphasis was on pushing it down the field. And that's been their emphasis in camp. That's what Jalen Hyatt was telling me the other day. And if you want to hang your hat on something, I think you can hang your hat on they were able to protect well enough to take shots down the field and complete some passes down the field at times. And Dan, listen, the Jones throw to Jalen Hyatt there, it's unfortunate because he had a step and the ball wasn't where it should have been. But I think that the encouraging thing is that it does appear that you have wide receivers who, if you give them a chance in one-on-one coverage and the defense doesn't give help to their corners, that these guys can make plays down the field. I think that's what I would hang my hat on. Another thing is, on the defensive stop in the red zone, I wasn't encouraged by that drive. Nico Collins got one on Deonte Banks there, out physicaled him, was really strong at the point there on the break. I don't know how much he pushed off there or not though. But he got Deonte Banks on that one, but I thought it was encouraging down near the end zone. Banks then bounces back, runs Nico Collins out of the end zone on that one play. He knew, it looked like he had him beat, but Banks knew where he was. He knew he was going to push him out of the end zone. It wasn't going to be a completion. And then there was another play where CJ Stroud had to eat it, kind of throwing that incompletion where Isaiah Simmons was on a tight end making a play there. So and all of those plays I like seeing because, to be honest, defensively, I'm concerned about a lot of things. The secondary, I think the run defense, especially with some of the injuries they're facing and the fact that their edges are better pass rushers than they are run defenders, I do think the Giants defense is going to, at times, have the ball moved on them. But I think the red zone defense is, if you're going to ask me what to hang your hat on, the first team red zone defense. That's what I would say. First team red zone defense. That's, on that first drive, that's what I would be encouraged most about. Other positives, let's get into, not just because he did my podcast, but I thought Allen Robinson, who only had 1 catch for 10 yards, I thought he was open a lot when he was running with the reserves. He only had 2 targets, but if you watch these games in person and any of fans here check in, you can tell me. I do feel like Robinson is open all the time, whether or not he's getting the ball. Hodgins, tough day for Hodgins. 2 catches, 14 yards on 4 targets. Let's see what else. I think Neighbors, the way that he bounced back, this is a good quote from Neighbors too that I feel like I should share with you guys. I asked him, because listen, this is a guy who he didn't have a catch in the first game. He didn't have a target in the first game. His first target today is a forced ball that Stingley should have intercepted on a short route, like a comeback route. And then the second target he drops, right? And yeah, Stingley was there, grabbing at him, whatever. But listen, he should have caught it. He knows he should have caught it. And he also takes a big hit from Jimmy Ward. And I said to him, why doesn't that rattle your confidence? Why doesn't that faze you? And he said, you've got to move on. He said, Daboll asked me in practice one day, he's like, how do you move on from a drop? And I said, I don't move on. And Daboll said, well, I'm going to need you to move on. So he said, he's learning this next play mentality, move on. He said, there's a lot of more plays to be made through the game. It was the first quarter. They're going to keep on coming to me, as you can see. So, that's a positive to glean from Malik Neighbors. And let's see. I thought Darnay Holmes played well as a gunner on punt coverage. Isaiah McKenzie, 3 returns for 83 yards on kickoffs. And with Gunnar Olszewski being out now for a while, looks like McKenzie could end up on the roster after all. That would be his job now to lose with Gunnar Olszewski out. It was Gunnar's job to lose before he got hurt. D-Kit wants to know the general mood surrounding the team after that start. I think there is a look in all their eyes, especially the veterans, that they know, like, we got to get this going. It's got to be better than that. They were not demonstrating panic. They know that this is a preseason game that doesn't count, and also that they need to clean up the mistakes in it. Like Darius Slayton said to me, not scoring early and having to bounce back from it is a very real scenario that it's good to go through and try not to go through the next time. Like it's a scenario that is going to happen in some games this season that they need to get back on track after. So they're trying to look at it that way. They're trying to look at it like, let's find a way to get ourselves right and make sure we're not in that situation again, but also putting themselves through that experience of how do we bounce back from it when it comes to that. Obviously, John Runyon Jr. did not play in this game. Was in street clothes. So was Tyrone Tracy, Drew Phillips, Lawrence Cager, Evan Neal. Great story here, by the way, on Jacob Johnson, the fullback. So here's the story with Jacob Johnson. He had just relocated and moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Wednesday is when the movers got his stuff to his new place and moved him in. And Thursday, he said, I'm just going to sit on my new couch. And instead, he gets a call from the Giants. They want him to come up Friday to New Jersey to work out for them. So he goes Friday to work out. The workout goes well. He signs. And then he flies with them here to Houston and plays. He said this is obviously his first time playing in a game before he practiced with the team. He said it's also his first time being a free agent this long. He said his coach in Germany was really excited because his coach in Germany is a huge Giants fan. So, that also seems like a really good story. And obviously he's from Stuttgart in Germany. But hopefully if he makes the team, he can be a part of that Munich game and add some fanfare to it. But crazy story there with Jacob Johnson, right? And that was all from me talking one-on-one to him, asking him those questions. Michael Miller says Daniel Jones all-pro this season. Hey, hope so. Let's turn it around. Chowski says he has one opportunity this year, and it is week 1. That's it about Jones. Manzilla says DeVito is our best option as I can see it. I do not agree with that, Manzilla. J Fed says DeVito looks bad. He's a borderline third QB. I agree with that, J Fed. I do. Lane says, Pat, has anyone at the Daily News encouraged you to be less harsh on Jones? I notice the 2 athletic writers are notably pro Jones this season for some reason. I wouldn't comment myself on anyone else's coverage, but I would say that my answer to you is a firm no. I mean, my editor does not tell me what to think and what to say about the Giants. We talk about story ideas. We bounce takeaways off each other. We discuss where the team's going. We discuss, takeaways in the moment. We have big picture conversations about what the organization is thinking, what people are saying, what's happening, and all that. So those conversations happen, but no, nobody steers me in a way. I have had editors before who have tried to do that at times, but that's rare from my experience, at least. I've been fortunate enough not to have people who do that with me. Also, let me just say, very grateful to the New York Daily News for sending me to Houston for this game and for being here. We should be at every event. Like, we should be at the Super Bowl. We should be at every Giants game. And I do come to, every Giants game. But we should be at every Giants game. We should be at every preseason game. We should be at the Super Bowl. We should be at playoff games. Like, this is how it works. And you bring great content to the people when you do it. Michael says Daniel Jones is going to be number 1 on NFL 100 this season. Unseat Tyreek Hill. Let's go. Undefined says he missed the game. Undefined, I'd say this. By missing the game, you will feel better about the Giants than if you had watched it. Chowski says, I feel like people who defend Jones at all costs don't watch much football besides Giants games. He's not a franchise QB. How many times are we all going to let Shane lie to us saying he is? Chowski, you hit on something interesting there, which is I agree with you. And this is not just Giants fans and Giants media. You go to different teams, cities where fans and media, they do tend to spend so much time evaluating and watching their own team. It's like they don't always put it in proper context, right? Like CJ Stroud was kind of had to dance a little bit at one point in the pocket in the end zone when the Texans were backed up, had to slide from his left to his right, stays poised, stays composed, and hits Dalton Schultz for a wide open 20-yard gain, right? And I think one thing I always say about coverage of teams in training camp, obviously you have to take training camp with a grain of salt in general, but also another emphasis that is important to remember is, some people watch a team practice against each other and they get so hyped up about the way certain players look in training camp practices, they forget to note and point out that, they're going to have to play the Cowboys. They're going to have to play the Eagles. They're going to have to play, let's say the Bengals, the Ravens, whoever it is. Your team is going to have to go out and play somebody else. And a team, in this case, a lot of times more talented. So you always have to remember those evaluations, take it. And, so for example, how they fare against the Lions means something in joint practices in that game and come out of that week feeling a little bit better about the team. How the starters look in this game, you come out feeling a little bit worse. It's more of a true evaluation. It's the same way that the Senior Bowl, when you talk about college prospects and evaluations, what the major value of the Senior Bowl is that teams get to see players going up against the best, right? So if you're a small school guy, you get a chance to go up against somebody from Alabama and show them what you got. Whereas you don't really have a chance to do that often with your college tape because you're playing a different, lesser schedule if you're 1AA or whatever it is. So seeing best on best is the really only true evaluation. And that's why Andrew Thomas said, hey, yeah, it was okay, but I want to go watch the film. And like he said, we didn't face Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., right? Like that was something that he felt like was missing from the evaluation. MD says uninspiring showing by Daniel Jones. It's year 6, got to be better. There's just no more excuses for this. Another Big Pat says, bright side today, Elijah Chapman is making the team for sure. Glad you mentioned that. Elijah Chapman drawing a hold on a pass rush against the Texans' first string offense in the red zone. Also chasing down a Texans backup running back. That was impressive. Yeah, for sure. He's making the team. I mean, he's basically a starter. I did see Ryder Anderson after the game. He did not. I said, are you all right? Kind of said yes, but also didn't exactly seem confident. Like I'm worried about that one there. So that could be a blow depth wise. Chapman will make the team. He did have a guy roll up on the bottom or on the back of his, I think, right ankle at one point. And then he came in another play, or he stayed in another play and then kind of labored off. But hopefully he's okay. Also, wow, him chasing down that running back down the sideline. That made me think of like, hey, if someone like that was chasing me and I started hearing those footsteps, I would just sit down on the ground. I'm not trying to get tackled by that guy. Bill Hartnett says Survivor Pool sounds like the Giants season. William Colon says, what is the mood of the team, Daboll, around Daniel Jones' play? They were not despondent, but they know it has to be better. And so, Daboll said flat out, poor decision, right? I mean, no sugarcoating it here. Daniel knows the deal. Giants know the deal. Daboll knows the deal. Saw Steve Tisch here, by the way. Good to see co-owner Steve Tisch. He did not comment on the team at all, but good to see Steve around the club. Hirsch, what's good? Good to see you. What other quarterback in the NFL would be given 6 years? None. Sad. And again, that is this current regime's decision. He is here because of what the current regime did when they got here. Joey B says, Pat, I'm heading to New Jersey for the night. You coming back tonight? I am. I'm on the 8 p.m. flight back to Newark, Joey B. Well, I see you at the airport. Looks like I just got a notification boarding in 2 hours and 8 minutes at Houston's airport. So that should be a fun race over there. Not close to this stadium, by the way. So when I wrap up this chat, it's going to be to leave for the airport. Chowski says, every year we go into the year feeling like Jones is a rookie. Andre says the mistakes cause the team to have to play from behind a lot of the time. For sure. Solving the race problem says, salute Pat, looked really bad watching on TV. Daniel Jones had decent pockets and underperformed. CJ Stroud made it look easy. Giants are a 7-win team at best. 7 is generous. I agree. 7 is very generous. Over under 6.5. It might even drop after a game like this. Who knows? Noel Daly says, hey, Pat, thanks as always. Thank you, Noel. Thanks for always saying that. It's only the first preseason game and Jones' first action since November. No need to panic. If he looks this way after two games, then we can panic. No, I agree. And that's why I think the mood was the guys were not panicking in the locker room. But I think that, to your point, they know it can't look like this. And Daniel knows it can't look like this when the season starts, right? Barb says, I don't know what people expected. He missed almost an entire year. His first live action coming off ACL. Of course, he's going to have some rust. Barb, I would agree with you to an extent there. I do think, to Noel's point too, and to some of other people's points, the concerning point, let's say you're not panicking. You understand it's a preseason game. I think the concerning part is the types of mistakes that were made today that Jones made are similar to the mistakes he has made in the past, decision-making wise, double clutching, still forcing a ball. I mean, let's not forget, his first throw to Malik Neighbors, he forced a throw to Neighbors that should have been intercepted right away on the first play of the game. You're right, there's rust. You're right, it's only one preseason game. They're trying to shake it off of him come game time, come regular season. But to me, the concern is more the types of problems you saw. That's the concern, the repeat offender type stuff. Jonathan says, you just brought up Eli. What's your opinion? Is he a Hall of Famer? A lot of controversy around that. I think personally, Eli was not a Hall of Famer for his career regular season, but I think that his 2 Super Bowl runs and championships will make him one, and that he's earned that right to get into the Hall of Fame based on those accomplishments at some point. Personally, I would say this is the type of player that deserves to eventually get in, but shouldn't be like a lock first ballot guy, is my opinion, based on his track record at, like start to finish of career. But, he's a popular guy. He's carried himself well. I'm sure he's going to have some big time advocates in the room for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he gets in on the first crack. No Mets. Good to see you here as always. Kyler says, just run with DeVito and give him games to develop. If Daboll is really a quarterback whisperer, they say he is, he can make him serviceable. I personally do not think DeVito is a real regular season solution. But I hear what you're saying. You're scrambling for answers right now because you don't want to see this season end before it starts. Thomas says, is it assumed that preseason game 3 will be mostly backups fighting for jobs? Yes. We don't know for sure yet how it's going to be handled, but that is the assumption. They do have a joint practice against the Jets on Tuesday. So the joint practice on Tuesday against the Jets should be the biggest work from the starters prior to the Vikings between now and then. But will be interesting to see if Dable needs to see a little bit more in-game action against the Jets, let's say, to really test it out. But my hunch is that they won't run it back there based on what their precedent has been. Mike A. complimenting D-Kit for his great question. D-Kit always bringing it. Super chats and great questions to drive the chat and drive the conversation. Really appreciate you. D says, can we agree Tommy DeVito is not an NFL caliber quarterback? Maybe we can rest Tanner McKee off waivers after the Eagles let him go to keep Kenny Pickett. Yeah, it sounds like there's a huge push here for Tanner McKee clearly being the better quarterback behind Jalen Hurts. And yet they traded for Kenny Pickett, right? So what happens there? Do they offload Kenny Pickett in a trade? To be honest, D-Kit, I think the more likely thing there is that the Eagles would offload Kenny Pickett to the Giants and keep Tanner McKee at this point. A lesson learned says, not sure if it's just me, but Hyatt should not be starting over Slayton. Yeah, and you see that they both rotate in and play. It's a top four, really, as you look at it. Hyatt, by the way, that was an incredible one-handed catch he made on the sideline. He just didn't keep his feet in on the drive at the end of the half. But that was an incredible catch. Iconic, what's up? He says, Pat, what are we doing about cornerback? Does look like a long year for the team. Yes, exactly. I mean, their backups today were Breon Borders and Trey Hawkins. Darnay Holmes dropped off the depth chart there. So they don't have – and also, listen, Deonte Banks is being forced and asked to be a number one to cover each team's best receiver. Even if he ends up acclimating to that, that's going to be a tough ask. That's a tough thing to do. A lesson learned says it should be encouraging. Daniel Jones was launching and working on his touch after all these seasons. A lesson learned. Love it. G-Man says, I'm sorry, but it's year 6. The ACL injury is going to be this year's excuse. It's pathetic. No, and I understand your guys' frustration and kind of your restlessness with that. So, and also, I want to tell you guys about all these different players. So tell me if there's something that I haven't mentioned, but let me rattle through some injuries and then I'll get right back to the questions. So we have Micah McFadden left with a hip injury, although he did appear to be holding his groin area. Don't know the severity there yet. Matt Adams left, has a groin injury. Ryder Anderson has a hamstring. Evan Neal didn't play. Neither did Tyrone Tracy, Drew Phillips, Lawrence Cager. Did Dante Miller play? I don't think he played either. Yeah, Dante Miller, Turbo, did not play either. He has, I believe, a hamstring. He was in uniform but didn't play. Drew Lock, also in uniform, didn't play. Yadni Kajus, the tackle, he was actually carted back to the locker room and then got off the cart and walked into the locker room on his own power. DJ Davidson looked like he hurt either an eye or something on his face in the fourth quarter there that had to be looked at. He was in the locker room after the game. Curious to see what comes of that there. Gunnar Olszewski out a little while now. Isaiah McKenzie probably ends up making the team as a returner at that point. So those are some injury updates for you. If you have any other questions about specifics, let me know. And to D-Kit's point earlier, I don't want to just, I promise, people who are new to this chat, I'm not here to dwell on the negative, right, or to be overly positive when things aren't going right either. I want to be a straight shooter. I feel like that's what I am. I try to be. And so, ask away. If it started negative at first today, I think it was because a lot of people entered this chat really frustrated about what they watched today, which is completely understandable. So yeah, whatever way the chat goes, it goes. But if you want to hear what I thought of specific players, silver linings, whatever it is, let's get to it. John Michael Schmitz, by the way, he played 3 series and then came out. And then Austin Schlottman went in. So Schmitz has been dealing with that shoulder. That looked like management with Schmitz there than anything. I'm going to follow up on that, but he was in the locker room. Looked like they were acclimating him back after returning to practice this week. Real quick, I want to tell you guys again about our sponsor, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, as you see on the screen here up above with the code and the QR code. It's a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today, so it's boomchaga.com, to place your first order. Use the discount code TalkinBall25 up here or the QR code on your screen, and you'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Do the subscribe and save order, and you don't have to stay subscribed. Just do it to get the discount. So go to subscribe and save, type in TalkinBall25. You'll get the discount on the product, and then if you don't want to stay subscribed, you can just cancel it out. There is no catch there. We're also sponsored by Estate 98 Coffee. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And also bet online. All right, let's get to the next chat question here. Timothy, what's going on? Sip of water here. Timothy says, should the Giants trade a 25 third rounder and a 26 conditional sixth rounder to the Broncos for Patrick Surtain II to bolster their secondary? Timothy, he's one of the best corners in the league. I still don't believe he would be available from the Denver Broncos. David Pierce says, how come we didn't get Wilson? Isn't Denver paying him to play for Pittsburgh? Good question, David. Hard Knocks, if you notice, left out that Russell Wilson even entered the Giants building for that visit, which was interesting, I thought. My understanding at the time, the reporting I did when he visited the Giants and ended up signing with the Steelers, my reporting at the time was that Wilson was not being guaranteed a starting spot. He was being told that he would, have a chance to compete and take snaps, but that it wasn't his job, and that therefore he wasn't going to say, where do I sign on a deal here? A lesson learned says, I also like the backup center today, meaning Austin Schlottman. Interesting. Yeah, I my initial feeling was that he would not make the team because they have a bunch of guards with center flex behind Schmitz, and then also they would want to keep both Neal and Azudu. But wait and see there, obviously, because you do need a capable center. You don't want to play a guard at center who's not as good there. Like Ben Bredesen, great example. Better at guard than he is at center. When they force him into snaps at center, his game would dip a little bit because it's not his natural position. He could do it, but he's better as your guard. He's now with the Bucs, obviously. Timothy says, should the Giants cut DeVito and place him on their practice squad after the preseason? My guess is that's probably what they'll try to do. That's my guess. Daniel says, obviously Daniel Jones is still bad, but I think we need to talk about the secondary. Not good enough. We need to add more consistent player there. Yeah, I mean, you saw it too. That's a story that I'll be writing probably this week, but about how, like Shane Bowen said, they're going to be looking for corners all season. And Joe Shane admitting that when they traded that pick for Burns, he made the joke like, and I'll play corner for us. But what he was saying was like, this is probably the pick that we're going to use on a corner. Now we're going to have to find a different solution, but it's probably going to be difficult to find one. Right. And so I thought that was a really good point. Or not a really good point, but like that was honesty from Joe Shane, like saying, here's the decision we're making, and it might compromise this piece, but we feel like the pass rusher is valuable. It's a young player we can get under contract, et cetera, right? But to your point, Daniel, right now the secondary depth is thin. The starters are being asked, a lot of them, to do more than maybe is above their level in some cases. Today it was Banks, McLeod, Pinnock, and Belton. Newbin worked in with the ones as well. I do think Newbin looks like an encouraging player. He lays the wood, so to speak, knocks guys back, is physically capable. The one thing I'll say about the Giants draft class this year that I notice, there seems to have been an emphasis on acquiring guys who physically are ready to go NFL-wise. And what I mean by that is like Neighbors, Tracy. This is actually something I probably should ask them the next time I talk to them. But Neighbors, Tracy, Theo Johnson, Chapman, even, who's an undrafted rookie, and Newbin, they are, and even Drew Phillips to an extent, even though he's obviously a smaller slot corner. Like these guys are like pretty put together for rookies. Like, it's typical for rookies to come in and, it's like, oh, they're a rookie. They don't have enough muscle yet, right? So we're working with them. They're athletic, but we need to put some more muscle on them. It might take a year or two. In this sense, in this case, something to be said for some kind of emphasis on guys who are already kind of, for lack of a better term, yoked up. But yes, the secondary is a huge issue. Chris with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Chris. Oh, and I just got the notification. My flight is delayed 20 minutes. Uh-oh, Joey B. Did you get that notification as well? Hey, maybe more time here on Talkin' Ball Live. Chris says, why are the Giants so confident Jones will be better than last season? Why didn't they bring in competition? Well, Locke is supposed to be here to compete to start. He obviously got a lot of snaps in the spring. Now he's hurt because, by the way, haven't put this out there yet, like the picture of it. But Drew Lock told us that the play he got hurt on in the first game was the play he got hit by 3 Lions linemen at once. Okay? So where the Giants are right now, their backup O-line had their backup quarterback get hit by 3 guys and get hurt. And so that's where Locke is. So there was supposed to be this idea that maybe Daniel's not going to be healthy right away. Locke obviously took all the spring reps. But really, Chris, we've talked about it earlier, but they knew they needed to go get somebody and find somebody. But because of where they were drafting and they couldn't get up there where all these teams were taking quarterbacks, and now they're in a position where they've made their own bed. Tuto, what's up? Tuto, always the best, always supportive, says, massive salutes and respects to Big Boss Pat, the king of New York Giants football organization. Appreciate that, Tuto. And all diehard fans across the pond. And please slap all stinky boys losers, including Saquon. I love Tuto's energy. I love the fire. I love it. If you're new to our Talkin' Ball Live, by the way, I do this after every Giants game. In the press box, like here at NRG Stadium, I come up from the locker room interviews with players and Dable and the coaches, and I bring all of my information right to you guys. We also do these on Mondays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. There are weeks where we alter that slightly depending on, like last week, for example, I did an impromptu Sunday live chat after Neighbors got hurt, and it couldn't wait till Monday, so we did Sunday, Thursday instead. But pretty much all season, you'll be able to count on Monday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the PL on NFL YouTube channel, Talkin' Ball Live with Pat Leonard. Also, special interviews with guests like Allen Robinson, that's up now, Benny Fowler, Super Bowl 50 champion. There's ones from the spring up right now, Phil Simms, Willie Colon, Big Daddy Salgado, who was on the Today Show recently, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. We did a really good one in June, and more great guests coming. Really excited about that. This is the content that we do here in addition to what I do in the New York Daily News website. And obviously, if you don't already, I'm PL on NFL really everywhere, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then on X, I'm P Leonard NYDN. We can talk more than just Giants here too, but these Giants post-game lives, because I'm here around the team, I've been covering the team since 2016 for the Daily News. And here on the Believe Network, it's a great way on Talkin' Ball Live to kind of bring things to you directly and not sugarcoat it, which is something I would never do. MD says, I feel like the media has treated Jones better than even Eli Manning. Time to take the gloves off. It's showtime, Daniel. I don't disagree that it's showtime. I don't disagree at all. Daniel says, how much are we paying Dak Prescott next season? That's funny. Yeah, well, the problem there is the team ready for you to invest big in a quarterback? I mean, at that point, you do have Neighbors on a rookie contract, so then maybe you do pay the quarterback, right? But is Dak Prescott going to have the ability to go to Las Vegas, to the Raiders, where there's no state income tax, or stay, in a place like Dallas, no state income tax, right? You're going to be competing against some situations there, some situations that could be more lucrative for him. Timothy says, if Daniel Jones gets injured by the way, Daniel, the other thing is, I've told you guys this before, I think, and it's worth going back on it, obviously now and throughout the season, but the opinion of a lot of people around the league of what the Giants should do next offseason if Jones flames out this year is that they should draft a guy and just continue to start fresh. Obviously, that wouldn't be good for this current regime necessarily, based on how long it would take for them to actually have a competitive team on the field. But from an organizational health standpoint, that's what people feel like they should do rather than tying themselves to a veteran. But we'll see. Like if Joe Schoen is here next year and Brian Daboll isn't, then Joe Schoen, survives a firing cycle, and then the pressure's on him to start winning some games, or else it wouldn't be like, hey, here's 4 more years, right? John says the kid, Daniel Jones, hasn't played since November off an ACL. It's a preseason game. Relax, people. Daboll said it's a preseason game, just like he said. It's preseason. Hopefully mistakes don't happen during regular season. John says clearly the leash Daboll is giving Jones this year is very, very short. Yeah, I would agree with that in general. Any chance on trading Jones away for someone like Kirk Cousins? Manzilla says. Those are calls you would make around the league at this point, and you should be kind of poking around on, I guess is what I mean. I don't think Kirk Cousins is tradable in a favorable way financially for the Falcons this year based on that massive contract he just got. Obviously, if they feel that great about Michael Penix Jr., they could bring a guy like Daniel Jones over there and start Penix. But I don't think cap-wise that's a feasible thing for a team like the Atlanta Falcons to do at this point. I hear what you're saying, though. You want to see an upgrade, and you want to see them scramble to find a solution before it's too late. Danny Dudd says Daniel still stinks. What excuse is it now? I guess he's rusty, and he laughs at that. Jonathan says, does John Mara and the Giants know or even care that fans are so fed up with watching Jones and losing football? Does this even come across their radar because it's ridiculous? John both likes Daniel and wants him to succeed and believes in him, and also feels exactly like you do. Like Mara, like any of you who have sat and talked to him even for a second, John like lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes the Giants. Like he feels the wins and the losses like all of you diehard fans do. I can say that without a doubt. Like, yes, I and many have been justifiably critical of mistakes he's made, how he's handled the organization, how he's fallen in love with players, how they've operated. But I can promise you he is aware of how the fan base feels. He is one of them, basically. I don't think, though, that there's how do I put this? There's not necessarily maybe a full recognition of what Daniel is compared. Like the general consensus that most of you have of what Daniel is I think not where Mara is, even though he understands how the fans feel, I don't think he shares the same skepticism and feeling about Daniel Jones. Thomas says, any team management negatives with Daboll calling plays thus far? The offense didn't score a point until the Texans took their starters out. That would be a negative. But no, from a game operation standpoint, haven't noticed any obvious advantages or disadvantages to that. I feel like today Daboll, he didn't overreact to Jones's first interception. He said something to Shea Tierney. It looked like maybe to relay to Jones. After the second interception, he walked back and said something to Jones. And then after they finally moved the ball a little bit and scored on the Slayton and Singletary, he gave him a handshake. Daboll's clearly working hard on being subdued because of how poorly everything went last year. Definitely a point of emphasis for him. Chris checks in with $5, says, why did the Giants think they had to pay Daniel Jones? I never understood it. It's twofold there, Chris. I feel like, in the moment, if we can assume that ownership, that Joe Schoen knew ownership wanted that deal to be done, then when they ended up in a position where it was time to get a contract done, I thought that Schoen and the Giants financial team did as good a job as they could once the decision was we're re-signing him, right? With what the contract looked like. In other words, they had that door, that escape hatch after year 2. So I did think they did as good a job as they could if that was the lay of the land, which I think we all imagined that was, I don't know. I disagree with the suggestion that Joe Schoen was forced to sign Daniel Jones. I think that's a ridiculous thing to say. He was a part of it. He was grinding away, in the room there, making it work. So he was a part of it too, and he's accountable for it. But I think that The thing I don't understand is the decision to arrive at paying him that kind of money. Who were you competing with who was going to give him that contract? I don't think anyone has still been able to answer that question. So as far as how much you're going, how far you're going in to pay him and paying him $40 million a year, who was ready to give him that deal if he didn't? And what leverage did Daniel Jones have there? You know, the bottom line is this. They knew at a certain point, or they had a judge by a certain point, that the right decision was to tag Daniel and to sign Saquon. But then once they couldn't get Saquon done, they ended up tagging Saquon and signing Daniel. And to me, that is just an unforgivable flip-flop of a decision-making and evaluation process. If you evaluated this guy as somebody who wasn't going to get it done, then that's the evaluation, right? I mean, you know, it's hard to understand it's hard to grant too much leeway to, you know, this suggestion of like, you know, we wanted Daniel Jones, but really we knew all along that he wasn't our guy, and now it's now or never, and then we're going to move on. And we always knew he wasn't going to be truly the $40 million quarterback. Once you pay him that, that's you're declaring that's what you feel, you know. Tuto says, contrary to Giants roadmaps, as always, we've bagged our first test season opener, epic win, massive positive vibes to start our season, and no injuries. I like the positive vibes, Tuto, and I love always your support with the super chats. Really appreciate that. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify after the fact, by the way, thank you for tuning in. We'd love to have you on the YouTube lives next time. So that would be the next opportunity would be Giants Jets at MetLife Stadium a week from now. Michael checks in with $10. Thank you, Michael. He says, Pat, don't miss the flight. LOL, safe travels. Also, what are your thoughts on the safeties and DBs out there? Looked like easy completions by Stroud in the middle of the field. I agree with that. I think, one second, getting a text in here. Okay, so yeah, there were completions available in the middle of the field. Sometimes when the pass rush wasn't quite getting there as well, which does tend to happen. The Giants right now are rotating their top three safeties. So at practice the other day, there were three different rotations with the first team defense. There was Pinnock and Belton to start. Then we saw Pinnock and Newbin. We also saw Belton and Newbin. We saw that during the game. I think there's a good chance Newbin ends up starting with Pinnock. That's what I believe. That's just my judgment of the situation. I think that could help them. Obviously, he's a rookie, though, so you will have rookie growing pains. But you saw, Dane Belton, he can play. I just think he's better off as a complement rather than asking him to do it all every down. They don't have a Xavier McKinney back there right now, obviously. And, you saw even today, he had the pass interference in the end zone that kind of negated the Elijah Chapman drawing the holding on the pass rush, gave the Texans an extra chance. Of course, the Giants defense did hold up there. So I think it's Newbin Pinnock to start the season. I think it would be nice to have a little bit more talent at safety. But I think they look like they have bigger needs elsewhere, frankly, even though it's hard to say because they have needs there too. But yeah, the corner position is a concern. I mean, Drew Phillips' injury, not good timing for that. It was a rookie who was having a good camp. Right now, you see guys like Trey Herndon on the field, Isaiah Simmons playing in the slot. I think the Giants will get exposed if they're running guys like that out there. I mean, you're going to get exposed there. Tommy says, Tudo, hope you and the fam are well. Chapman needs to start for sure. Some players showed promise, young talent for the future, but Jones needs to be replaced with Quinn Ewers from Texas, Hook'em Horns gunslinger. All right. Oh, we got another. Let's see. Michael, by the way, thank you for that $10 super chat. Really appreciate it. All right, let me get back in the queue here. I think I skipped down a little bit. Let's see. Oh, we were talking about Mara. All right. T. Patrick says Jones looked rusty early on, threw 2 nice balls later on. Didn't get any help early. Daboll's play calling was ultra vanilla and conspicuously conservative. Yeah, T. Daboll said the priority and the focus was to push the ball down the field and try to have him face a pass rush, face a live rush, and try to push the ball down the field while they were at it. So that was the design around what you saw on the field. They did scheme and prepare for the Texans, but like he said, it wasn't the same as it would have been in the regular season. Chris says, why did the Giants let Saquon Barkley walk, tag Jones when they know front office does not value running back? Well, the front office was a part of that decision, Chris. I mean, the front office was the part of the decision. Like it wasn't ownership deciding all of that and front office not participating. Like Joe Schoen was participating in that. Obviously didn't get the Barkley situation done, and then it got super contentious with Barkley as well, which was not a good look. Remember, Saquon called them out for leaks and all that. So, I think the bottom line is they clearly in that off season, they just decided organizationally, top down, they did not want to lose either player. So, that was ultimately where they went with that. Obviously, if you operate from a big picture result that you're looking for, a resolution that you're looking for that isn't sound, then you can end up making mistakes. That's what I would say there. Let's see. All right, let me try to rattle through these comments and get to all your comments here. I missed this one. Steven says, Pat, you can F right off with all your Eli Hall of Fame take. Read the room. Hey, he asked me. I'll be honest. I'm never not going to be honest. Come on. I said he's ultimately probably going to get in. What do you want from me? Let's see. Raphael says 1 preseason game. Relax. T. Patrick says Neighbors didn't turn on the first play. Hyatt looked lousy. Didn't come back at all in the interception. Couldn't get feet in on great throw. Dave says, do we all get medium Pepsis after this year? FYI, Pepsi no longer a sponsor of that one gate. It's now Moody's at MetLife Stadium. I wonder if that's related to the medium Pepsi scandal. I actually I'm meaning to ask about that, though. I don't know if I'll get a straight answer to that either. D. Pat says this is going to be year 6 for Daniel Jones, and he still makes rookie mistakes. T. Patrick says play calling was poor, not creative in the least. Texans appeared to know the call multiple times. That has happened with that offense going back to last year, too. Daboll caught a lot of defenses off guard the first season, but it appeared last year that opposing defenses had caught up to some tendencies. We'll see if he can figure that out this year. Decision-making aside, what did you think of Daniel Jones' processing, Andre said? I thought when he had good protection, Andre, he was able to process pretty well. The thing you just don't want to see from Daniel is that hitch and then the decision after it, right? So, I think the speed with which he played was pretty good overall, outside of the enormous mistake backed up in the red zone. I do agree with the point earlier, too, that like once he got his feet under him, you could see him kind of slinging the ball around the yard. I think Daboll running no hurry or no huddle, hurry up offense there was designed to try to get it flowing there with the quarterback, too. A-Train says, I don't know why everyone was upset. This was a great step in the right direction. I think you mean O-line. We'll see. I mean, like Thomas said, the starting 2 edge rushers for the Texans didn't play. The pass protection was better than what we've seen at times, though, for sure. So if you're going to say something looked better, you could say that. But I do think grain of salt, like Thomas said. O-line looked decent. That's something to hang the hat on. Hopefully that continues, says MD. Dave also agrees. I was happy with the O-line play. QB and secondary are biggest concerns. T says O-line looked pretty good. Running back run well. Neighbors looks to be the real thing. Jones made a couple great throws when allowed to go downfield. Solving the problem says, get DJ some boom chaga to wake him up. I should. He looks lethargic, drowsy, and unprepared out there. Send him a sample. I don't want to stunt. I don't want to grow the beard out so much, though. I don't know if Boom's going to help him grow that beard so much that, the aura kind of falls off. We want that beard to be full and groomed. Let's see. MD agrees the O-line was a positive, will be overshadowed by bad QB play. Fans are getting fed up with that, but end of the day, it's preseason. Dave says, Pat, I can't speak for the others, but I appreciate your honesty and commitment to quality content. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you saying that. Let's see. T also says defense is going to give up a lot of yards, but team is consistent bad field position. Put the team in consistent bad field position and losing time of possession. I do think they're going to give up a lot of yards. I agree with that. Barb says, I guess it's Locke and DeVito next week. That's my guess at the moment. We'll see, Barb. Team needs better players for sure. Poor drafting really shows up in playing deep teams. Unfortunately, Giants management coaching is third rate at best, and it shows. T. Patrick not happy after watching the game. I understand that. Let's see. By the way, if I skip one of your questions, it's only because it's like a repeat of something I've already answered. No offense. OG, what's going on? Good to see you. T says Dable hardly coached that game to win it. I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, he ran a hurry-up offense at the end of the second quarter. He challenged a first down on an Allen Robinson catch in the second half. I think he did want to win this game, just didn't come to pass. Let's see. Thierry says, I believe the Giants will be better this year and Jones will be fine. The O-line will be the difference. Barb does not want Dak Prescott. D-Kid says, Pat, the light at the end of the tunnel is an oncoming train. Oh, wow. What a phrase. Holy cow. Let's see. So OG said, Diet says we are cooked. OG says, I like Dable. He's just in a bad situation with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. T says Shane has to go. Draft management is bottom 10% in the league. Brett says, hey, Pat, how did Kayvon and Burns looked? Or how did they look? Let's see the final stats there. Final stats for Thibodeau, one tackle, one quarterback hit. And Brian Burns, one tackle, no quarterback hits. So they played, I think 3 series? I think it was 3 series. So, the Giants did not early on get gashed in the running game. They were stopping the run. That's what I want to continue to see. I've said before I have concerns about their running game against teams that have good running games. Doesn't look like the Texans really do. But, that's what I'm encouraged by. Stop the run defense, at least the starters we've been talking about. And then, from a pass rush perspective, though, they did not make Stroud's life too difficult. Let's see. Absence of talent in year 3 shows Shane's deficiencies. T. Patrick says 28 draft picks, not a single quality starter. I do think that a part of this team's flaws that is not discussed enough is that the talent they have added these last few years, agreeing with you, has not blossomed or become what it was supposed to be. I do agree that's a big part of it. Pat, that's unfair because the Giants fans didn't give Drew Lock the same pass when he played badly last week. I don't understand the love for DJ even when he plays poorly. Shaking my head. That's a fair point, OG. That's a fair point. I do think a lot of Giants fans, though, last week when Lock played poorly, I thought a lot of Giants fans reacted to that saying, this is unacceptable. Like, that because they knew that in the offseason adding Lock was supposed to be the insurance to Daniel, and that if they had to bail on Daniel early, that it was going to be, like a quarterback who was capable, and then they felt like they saw that wasn't the case there. If I do see repeat questions or people with tons of questions in here, just so you know, I will skip over here and there because eventually here I'm going to have to bail and catch my flight. Let's see. T. Patrick also reinforces place blame on the man who built this roster and hired these coaches. No, I do think Shane deserves plenty of blame, and I put it on him for sure. Let's see. Tommy says it was tough to be at the game and watch the Giants regress instead of keeping a good balance of production. But Jones 6 looking like dumpster juice is definitely a problem. Brett says conversely, or he contrasts with Jones is my quarterback. I believe in him. Patrick says until changes are made upstairs, this team will wallow around in the basement. I agree with that. ownership, front office, it all factors in, head coach on down. Let's see. Tommy says, game was ugly as a Giant, but as a hometown Texan, it was okay but concerning to see Texans play down to opponents' poor play. Houston will make the AFC Championship. Stroud MVP. Hope our Giants make a run. Let's see. Have you heard whether the chairs in Mara's owner's box will be strapped down when Saquon's Eagles come to town, says Thomas. Great question, Thomas. I'll go in there and check it out. Robert says, have the Giants written off Drew Lock? No, that's not how I see it. He's just injured. He has that hip injury, so that's why he wasn't in this game. He has an oblique and hip injury. So even though Shane's initial forecast that he was told that he relayed on the broadcast last week against Detroit was that he could come back into the game and he was all right, turned out not to be the case. T says, Theo Johnson, new tight end, tried to hurdle a 185-pound corner rather than truck him. Where's the coaching or fundamentals? Yeah, you try to weed those things out in the preseason. Tommy says, Pat, don't worry. Just hit downtown. Go get you some drinks. Forget this terrible play. Look at the sights. Plenty eye candy will be out. My eye candy is going to be the back of my eyelids on the plane, I hope. Phil the Agony says, DJ will get the entire front office and coaching staff fired after this season. Tuto says, Tommy, I'm not worried about today's Giants match, mate. It's all about evaluations to cut and waive or get better position players from other teams on waivers, mate, to build a solid roster to move forwards. Let's see. Michael says, you're welcome, Pat, on the super chat. Thank you for taking the time out for us. And Patrick says, thank you, Pat, for reading me. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Genuinely, bottom of my heart, all the support here and participation. Vincent says, I just joined, so I will be rewinding and starting from the beginning. Yeah, like I said, anyone who's listening on Apple or Spotify, next time, hopefully see you here in the chat. And then if you're late to this chat, you can watch the rest of it when we come back here on the channel. It'll be posted on the channel. It'll live there, and you can rewatch the video. Michael, what happened to Drew Phillips? He hurt his ankle, and he hasn't been practicing. He was here, but he did not play, did not dress for the game in street clothes. Bill says, disaster recovery exercise weekend, so I've been up late and slept through part of the stream at my desk. Thanks for the discussion, Pat. I'll have to watch some of it back. Hey, thanks for being honest, Bill. No problem there. No problem. Tommy says, Tuto, it's a little late for big adjustments, but hopefully the GM makes the proper cuts and additions to compete because Sam Darnold looks to outplay Jones week 1 at this rate if it continues. Patrick says, Jones did fine through a few nice balls to Slayton. He needs work. Play him next week. That'll be interesting. I don't have any insight into whether Jones would have a chance to play next week. I mean, typically the Giants don't do that with their starters in that final preseason game, but you never know. So I'm not sitting here telling you I know for sure that's not going to happen. Never too late to get better players and make things better, says Tudo. D-Kid says, Pat, I thought the rule was that all good decisions are Joe Shane's and all bad decisions are John Mara's. Isn't that the rule? Yeah, it depends on who you are. But that's D-Kid showing some good insight into what he sees around some of the national media. It sounds like what he's saying. Tommy says, Pat, it's Saturday in H-Town. Go get a good meal and a shower. Get out, get a couple drinks. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to play the first team yet. D-Kid says, Pat, at some point your quarterback has to start making plays. I don't know what else to say at this point. No, for sure. No doubt about it. Let's see. Enough with the excuses, says No Mets. Bill says, maybe I need some Boom Chaga. Everyone should try Boom Chaga. It's really good. D-Kid can tell you. It's really good. Let's see. Tommy wants Joe Flacco. Ray Ginsburg says, disappointed with Daniel, losing confidence in him, and I am his biggest supporter. Dave Z says, how did Pat Shurmur get Daniel Jones to throw for 24 touchdowns? Push the ball down the field, kind of like Daboll's trying to do now. Some good-looking routes in his offense. Good offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur. Not a great head coach, but a good offensive coordinator. And, if you remember that year, what they did was they lived with him taking a ton of hits and having a ton of fumbles. So it was like they were going for broke. He was pushing the ball down the field, and they were using his legs. And then when guys got to him, it was a disaster play. And he was taking too many hits and turning the ball over too much. So that was the answer. But you're right. Somebody did get a bunch of touchdown passes out of Daniel Jones. It was Pat Shurmur. Let's see. Tommy says secondary and backups need to improve. Looks like a lot of the backups don't have the juice. Hope they get it together. Well, really, this team's really banged up, too. A lot of the guys playing for them in these depth spots, it's because so many guys are hurt. Can we get some sort of IV latched on the Dexter Lawrence to get him out there every snap, says DZ. It's going to be necessary, that's for sure. Let's see. T. Patrick says no QB ever could do it alone. Jones hasn't shown a ton, but honestly, has a quarterback ever been given a worse hand to play? You're just looking for him to make enough plays, 5 or 6 plays a game where things aren't perfect, but he still turns it into a big play. Brett says it's early. Met says we just made changes upstairs. Mara's not firing himself. Let's start with a change in quarterback. That's way more realistic. Tommy says, I'm surprised they didn't bring in Pat Shermer to get Jones back rolling, but our running back room has promise. Wide receivers got open. Just hate that Jones didn't make it happen with opportunities. Devin Singletary, only 10 carries for 20 yards. Run game needs to look better, too. A-Train says, Pat, what was the vibe in the locker room after the game? Not despondent, but reflections of guys saying they need to do better. It is a young room, so, a mix of like guys like Malik Neighbors saying that they're learning and they're experiencing a lot of things for the first time, and kind of like for Neighbors, for example, it's his first time, catching a ball in a game in the NFL, right? So some thrill to that. By the way, joint practice with the Jets is Wednesday, not Tuesday. I think I kept saying Tuesday. I meant Wednesday. Let's see. By the way, Danico Autry was also out of this game. So Danico Autry is one of the Texans' best players in the interior. He's suspended for the first 6 games of the season. So he'll be out for the first chunk of the season for Houston. But they were missing Autry, Anderson, and Hunter from what will be the Texans' starting defensive line. Dave Z says, get the Mara family out of football operations and strictly on the business side. Why is Tim McDonald the head of pro personnel? The Maras will always be involved in some way in football, and Tim is in the building, considered a rising star or a risen star, let's say. Tommy says, travel safely. Hope the fam are well. Thank you, Tommy. Keep up the real content. But what do you think about Jones and his interceptions and poor play? I think it's the first game back, but enough's enough. I think both can be true. Let's see. Daniel says, also, I really think Allen Robinson should make the team over Hodgins, a better receiver at complement to wide receiving core. I agree. Lauren Volpe Leonard checks in with happy anniversary, Daddy, from my daughter, it appears. What's What's wrong, chicken? So that's a reference to one of my favorite movie lines in Spaceballs when Lord Helmet or Dark Helmet says, what's the matter, Colonel Sanders, chicken? I love that. And yes, I am here on my anniversary, my 11th anniversary. So my beautiful wife, thank you to her for being so patient and for staying with me, even though I decided to fly to Houston to watch the Giants play the Texans in a preseason game. But looking forward to getting an amazing anniversary dinner tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting home. And if you're listening, family, I did get an alert already that my flight is delayed 20 minutes, but hopefully that doesn't hold. I'm headed to the airport shortly. All right. Let's see. We all need a couple shots of Boom Chaga, says Tommy. Yeah, all of you, please go to the website, boomchaga.com, talkingball25 or the code. You go to subscribe and save when you buy the bag. You get the discount, and then you can just cancel the subscription. You don't have to say subscribed. I know a lot of you probably want to try it one time before going subscribe and save, but you won't be locked in, promise you. Let's see. Chapman is exciting. That is a player you can build with, it looks like. D-Kid says, bottom line, my opinion, the problem with the fan base is our expectations have dropped dramatically and we can no longer recognize poor NFL caliber play. Yeah, D-Kid, it's a mix of like you have a realistic vision of it's not good enough, but you're so tired of losing. Anytime you see a glimmer of hope, you you kind of want to go all into it, if that makes, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of one of those things. So I understand that it's tough. Let's see. No Met says happy anniversary, Pat and Pat's fam. Thank you. D Kid says, Pat, I'm going to send you a case of Boom Chaga for your anniversary. Appreciate that. T Patrick says, safe flight, Pat. Thank you again. Excellent work. Brett M says, tell your wife we said thanks. Happy anniversary. Appreciate you. Thank you, everybody. Just a quick reminder, one more time, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drinks, our sponsor. Natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee. Talking Ball live with Pat Leonard, brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar that is convenient for on-the-go professionals and parents. It takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to estate98.com/talkinball. That's estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And brought to you by Bet Online. Guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining our Talkin' Ball live from NRG Stadium in Houston. I'm headed to the airport to catch a flight, but we'll be back with you on Monday evening, this coming Monday, to preview an important week with the Jets, talk about where injuries stand, where the roster stands, and lay the groundwork for, every week now is the most important week of the Giants season. So thank you so much for being here. Remember, subscribe to the channel, PL and NFL. Hit those likes on your way out. Live likes always help. And as always, thank you to the people who purchased those super chats. D Kit, Lane, Chris, Tuto, Michael Maresca, Dave Z. Really appreciate all you guys participating, driving the conversation. Thank you so much. Take care here. This is Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News and here on the Believe Network saying so long from H-Town.